Live from New Delhi, you're watching DD India News on India's Voice to the World. I'm Prasar Bharati. Coming up in the next hour. In a dramatic shift from the US leader's call on Kyiv to make concessions to end the conflict, President Trump now says he believes Ukraine can retake all its land occupied by Russia. Iran, European powers meet in a bid to strike a last-ditch nuclear deal to avert re-imposition of UN sanctions before a September 27 deadline. India hits out at Pakistan in United Nations, says it should vacate Indian territory under their illegal occupation and more focus on rescuing economy on life support. Super Typhoon Ragasa lashes Hong Kong, schools shut, flights cancelled, thousands evacuated, death toll climbs to 14 in Taiwan. And in cricket, India looks to continue its form against Bangladesh in Super Force today in Asia Cup in Dubai. In a major shift from his previous dismissals of Kyiv's aims in over three and a half years old decade, conflict, US President Donald Trump on Tuesday said that Ukraine could retake all of its territory from Russia. In a post on his Truth Social platform, Trump said he believes that Ukraine, with the support of the European Union and NATO, can win back all of the territory Russia has taken. Trump further said the US will continue to supply weapons to NATO for NATO to do what they want with them. Dismissing Russia as a paper tiger in economic peril, Trump said Putin and Russia are in big economic trouble and this is the time for Ukraine to act.
The biggest progress is that the Russian economy is terrible right now. It's, as you know, it's crashing. And that, frankly, Ukraine is doing a very good job of stopping this very large army. Pretty amazing. You know, this is a war that should have ended in 3 days, 4 days. People said it was going to be very quick, and you got to hand it to the Ukrainian soldiers.
Trump's comments came after holding talks with Ukrainian counterpart Volodymyr Zelensky on the sidelines of UNGA in New York. Talking to media with Ukrainian counterpart, the US president called NATO nations to shoot down Russian planes violating their territory.
Mr. President, do you think that NATO countries should shoot down Russian aircraft if they enter their airspace?
Yes, I do.
Ukrainian President Volodymyr Zelensky hailed a big shift in Donald Trump's position after the US president said Kyiv could win back every inch of territory captured by Russia's army. Talking to media after meeting Trump, the Ukrainian president said the US president had the influence and power to be a game changer for Ukraine.
Trump is a game changer by himself if he will be sure in Ukraine, and I think that he is more close now to this situation, and that's why and between us only Trump can. For today, we know some not too much players in the world who can be game changers, but he's the most closer to this.
NATO warned Russia that it would use all necessary military and non-military tools to defend itself as it condemned Moscow for violating Estonian airspace in a pattern of increasingly irresponsible behavior. The warning came after Estonia said on Friday that 3 Russian MiG-31 fighter jets violated its airspace for 12 minutes before NATO Italian fighter jets escorted them out. The week before, some 20 Russian drones entered Polish airspace, prompting NATO jets to shoot some of them down and the alliance to beef up the defense of Europe's eastern flank. The NATO statement followed a meeting of the North Atlantic Council made up of ambassadors from Alliance's 32 member countries, which was called after Estonia invoked Article 4 of NATO's founding treaty. In its statement, NATO also said its members would not be deterred from continuing to support Ukraine in the exercise of its inherent right to self-defense against Russia's brutal and unprovoked war of aggression. Meanwhile, world leaders gathered at the UN Security Council for a high-level meeting on Ukraine conflict. While Ukrainian President Zelensky urged stronger action from allies on Russia, UN Secretary General Antonio Guterres warned of further escalation of the conflict.
We cannot afford to lose the current diplomatic momentum, as fragile as it might be. The longer this war continues, the more devastating its consequences for everyone. I therefore reiterate my appeal for a full, comprehensive and sustainable ceasefire.
Général et durable.
Chile on Tuesday put forward its former President Michelle Bachelet as a candidate to replace UN Secretary General Antonio Guterres, whose term ends next year. Addressing the UN General Assembly, Chilean President Gabriel Boric said Bachelet was the perfect choice. A pediatrician by profession, Bachelet served as Chile's only woman president twice, from 2006 to 2010 and again from 2014 to 2018. A member of Chile's Socialist Party, she has also served as the executive director of UN Women and as UN High Commissioner for Human Rights. The UN has never been led by a woman in its 80-year history and has had only one Secretary General from Latin America to date, Peruvian Javier Pérez de Cuellar, who served from 1982 to 1991. French President Emmanuel Macron said on Tuesday if US President Donald Trump wants the Nobel Prize, he needs to stop the conflict in Gaza, and he is better positioned to do so than France. Speaking in a televised interview from New York, where Macron is attending the United Nations General Assembly, he said that only Trump has the power to put pressure on Israel to end the conflict in Gaza.
The Nobel Peace Prize is only possible if you stop this conflict. And therefore, we must put pressure on the Israeli government to end the conflict in Gaza, so that we can finally release the 48 hostages and reopen the humanitarian aid routes, save the lives of children, women, men and the elderly.
48 otages.
Macron also welcomed comments by Trump appearing to shift his rhetoric about the conflict in Ukraine. Trump said that he believed Ukraine can win back all of the territory Russia has taken since its invasion. Addressing the UN General Assembly earlier in the day, Trump criticized the organization itself, saying it had not supported his efforts to end conflicts around the world. But speaking to the chamber himself later in the day, Macron said the world needed a functioning United Nations.
One could heap many criticism on our assembly, including some that are not entirely fair. This assembly is us. If it is ineffective, it's because some are blocking it, and often the most powerful. If it does not move fast enough, it is because we are not determined enough to push it forward. The United Nations is all of us.
US President Donald Trump warned Russia he is prepared to impose strong economic measures over the conflict in Ukraine in his combative speech to the UN. Trump's warning, in fact, his warning to Russia came with a twist. He said he wants US allies to impose the same measures on Russia he is proposing to try to force Russian President Vladimir Putin.
In the event that Russia is not ready to make a deal to end the war, then the United States is fully prepared to impose a very strong round of powerful tariffs which would stop the bloodshed, I believe, very quickly. But for those tariffs to be effective, European nations, all of you are gathered here right now, would have to join us in adopting the exact same measures.
French President Emmanuel Macron will meet his Iranian counterpart Masoud Pezeshkian at the UN on Wednesday as efforts to avert the reimposition of deep sanctions on Tehran over its nuclear program intensify. Giving options from the podium of the UN General Assembly on Tuesday, the French president said Iran either makes a gesture and goes back to the path of peace and accountability that make it possible to get back on course, or sanctions will have to be imposed. He further said he will meet the Iranian president on Wednesday on each of these crucial issues. More and more countries have announced their decisions to recognize a Palestinian state after the UK, Canada, Australia and Portugal. While announcing decision to recognize a Palestinian state, French President Emmanuel Macron called for an end to conflict in Gaza. White House said that Trump believes Palestinian recognition rewards terrorist group Hamas. But UN Chief Antonio Guterres reaffirmed that statehood for Palestinians is a right, not a reward.
As the support for Palestinian statehood is growing louder each passing day, cracks seem to be appearing at the foundations of some of the strongest global alliances which have stood united on various critical issues in the past. On Monday, France joined Britain, Canada and other Western allies in recognizing the Palestinian state at a World Summit in New York. French President Macron stressed that time has come for peace in Gaza.
Bâtir la paix, c'est ce qui nous rassemble ici.
Time has come. This is why, loyal to my country's historic commitment to the Middle East, for peace among Israeli people and Palestinian people, I declare that France recognizes today the state of Palestine.
Monday's summit, titled High-Level International Conference on the Peaceful Settlement of the Question of Palestine and the Implementation of the Two-State Solution, was convened by France and Saudi Arabia. Luxembourg, Malta, Morocco and Belgium also recognized Palestinian statehood at the summit.
This recognition today is not symbolic, but reflects a will and a responsibility in fulfilling the rights of the Palestinian people to self-determination and decisive action towards ending occupation and making the two-state solution a reality that is irreversible.
But some nations adopted a cautious approach towards recognizing a Palestinian state. Italy was among them.
Our position is clear. Italy is against the occupation of Gaza Strip and against any idea of displacement of its population. Italy condemned also the recent attack against Doha, but we encourage Doha to continue in the crucial effort to mediate, together with Egypt and the United States, to reach a ceasefire.
UN Secretary General Antonio Guterres said that the Palestinians have the right to their own state.
And let's be clear, statehood for the Palestinians is a right, not a reward. And denying statehood would be a gift to extremists everywhere. Without two states, there will be no peace in the Middle East, and radicalism will spread around the world.
Meanwhile, Monday's meeting in New York was trashed by Israel and the United States.
As for all of these Western nations that are recognizing a Palestinian state, the president has been very clear. He disagrees with this decision.
Even Israeli ambassador to France slammed Macron's decision to recognize a Palestinian state.
France is unfortunately becoming a destabilizing agent in the Middle East because of their, I don't know what is behind it, but the need for them to make statements that are, more show than anything else.
European Commission President Ursula von der Leyen, on the other hand, pledged coordinated international efforts for Gaza's reconstruction and economic recovery.
We Europeans will set up a dedicated instrument for Gaza's reconstruction in coordination with other donors' efforts. Gaza must be rebuilt, the Palestinian economy must be relaunched, and I invite all of you to join in the effort to make this happen.
Meanwhile, Palestinian President Mahmoud Abbas asked the Hamas and other factions to surrender their weapons to the Palestinian Authority. On the ground, the growing recognition of a Palestinian state triggered celebrations on the streets of Ramallah in the West Bank. Palestinians could be seen waving Canadian, Dutch and other international flags of countries which have given the cause of Palestinian statehood a new hope. Fuzail Ahmed's report, DD India.
And still to come on DD India News Hour. Trump insists he will end the war in Gaza at meeting with heads of Arab and Muslim states on the sidelines of the UNGA in New York. South Africa seeks tariff reduction in talks with US. Rabat to host Dance of Africa Festival as Morocco kicks off Africa Cup celebrations.
Welcome to DD India, where a billion voices unite, connecting viewers to the stories that matter. India is not just another news channel. It's the international channel that puts the spotlight on the global south, bringing you stories from the heart of emerging economies, dynamic cultures, and transformative voices. As the international news channel of India's public broadcaster Prasar Bharati, DD India delivers high-quality content from every corner of the globe, focusing on the stories that shape our future. We don't just report news. We connect you to India's voice in the global narrative, from current affairs to culture, from economic growth to sustainable development, and the ever-evolving world order. DD India gives you a comprehensive view of the world around us. Stay connected, stay informed, and embrace the stories that shape our lives. DD India, India's voice to the world.
You're watching DD India News Hour. I'm Siddharth Bharadwaj. Iran and European powers remained at loggerheads on Tuesday to strike a last-ditch deal to avert the reimposition of UN sanctions before a September 27 deadline, but both sides left the door open for further talks. The foreign ministers of France, Britain and Germany, the so-called E3, along with the EU's foreign policy chief Kaja Kallas, held talks with the Iranian counterpart on sidelines of UN General Assembly. On August 28, the E3 launched a 30-day process to reimpose UN sanctions, which ends on September 27, accusing Tehran of failing to abide by a 2015 deal with world powers aimed at preventing it from developing a nuclear weapon. But 3 European diplomats said significant gaps remained even though all sides knew what needed to be done to get a compromise. If Tehran and the E3 fail to reach a deal on an extension by the end of September 27, then all UN sanctions, including on its key hydrocarbon sector, will be renewed on Iran, where the economy already struggles with crippling sanctions reimposed since 2018 after US President Donald Trump ditched the pact during his first term. Meanwhile, a team of inspectors were on their way to Iran should Tehran and European powers reach a deal this week to avert the reimposition of international sanctions. UN nuclear watchdog chief Rafael Grossi agreed that technical measures with Iran in Cairo earlier this month would pave the way for resumption of IAEA inspectors at sites. But with scant detail and no time frame, they have come under fire given the urgency ahead of snapback.
Everything is possible. Everything is. If there is a will, sorry for the cliche, if there is a will, there is a way. We have our inspectors, their inspectors are on the way, and they are, the possibility to start with this work is depending on the political will of Iran.
Protesters opposing the Iranian government gathered near the United Nations in New York on Tuesday, a day before Iran's President Masoud Pezeshkian was set to address the annual UN General Assembly. The Organization of Iranian American Communities, affiliated with the People's Mujahideen Organization of Iran, organized the rally. PMOI is the main faction within the exiled opposition umbrella organization, the National Council of Resistance of Iran. There was a heavy security presence outside the United Nations headquarters. The US Secret Service said on Tuesday it had dismantled a network of sophisticated electronic devices in the New York area that had been used to threaten US government officials as foreign leaders gathered this week for the UN General Assembly. And in another meeting, world leaders convened at UNSC to address the deepening Israel-Palestinian conflict with stark warnings about humanitarian crisis and regional instability dominating discussions. The meeting concluded with calls for renewed international efforts to address the escalating crisis as world leaders departed amid lingering questions about the Council's ability to act decisively. UN Secretary General Antonio Guterres described the situation as one of the darkest chapters in the conflict. U.S. Ambassador to the UN, Mike Waltz, criticized recent unilateral statements regarding Palestinian statehood. He argued that such moves embolden Hamas and undermine peace efforts.
Unfortunately, yesterday's conference spoke to domestic audiences, but it will prolong this tragic war in Gaza, and it will prolong the suffering. Hamas stands emboldened today after that conference. We've rewarded its obstruction. We've undermined efforts to achieve peace in both the short and the long term. Unilateral recognition statements do not alter the reality on the ground. It does not alter the fact that there is not a Palestinian state to recognize. And at this point, there is no credible Palestinian partner for peace.
Secretary of State Marco Rubio said that the U.S. has not received a reported letter from Hamas regarding a hostage deal. According to a news channel, Hamas sent a letter to U.S. President Trump proposing a 60-day ceasefire in exchange for the immediate release of half of the hostages being held in Gaza. Rubio told Fox channels Fox and Friends Tuesday morning that his administration has not received any such letter from Hamas.
We haven't seen the letter. We don't have that letter. And even if we did, it wouldn't matter. The president has already made clear he's not interested in 60 days, 10 people. He wants all the hostages out, all 48, including the 20 who are alive, 28 who are deceased. He wants them all. There should have never been any. Why are we even talking about hostages? Why do we still have to talk about hostages at this point? There shouldn't be any. They should all be released immediately, period.
U.S. President Donald Trump held meetings with leaders of Muslim nations, including Qatar's Amir Tamim bin Hamad Al Thani, on the sidelines of the UN General Assembly in New York on Tuesday. According to reports, the meeting was focused on ending the ongoing conflict in Gaza and reaching a permanent ceasefire. U.S. media reports that release of hostages, ending hostilities, and plans for Israel's eventual withdrawal from Gaza were the key issues discussed during the meeting. Earlier, talking to media before the start of meeting, Trump said the meeting is aimed at bringing the hostages back and permanent ceasefire in Gaza.
We're here to see if we can get the hostages back and get the war over and get back to life in the Middle East, which is a beautiful life, but it's much more beautiful without wars, right?
The only reason we're here is to stop the war and bring the hostages back. And we count on you and your leadership as well to end this war and to help the people of Gaza. The situation is very, very, very bad there. So we are here to meet and to do everything we can to stop this war and to bring the hostages back.
Canadian Prime Minister Mark Carney on Tuesday acknowledged that trade discussions between the US and Canada are still ongoing. Speaking at a press conference after attending the United Nations General Assembly, Carney said while Canada currently had the best trade deal with the US of any country due to USMCA compliant goods being exempt from US tariffs, it could be better. On China, Carney said Canada has alignment with the US on steel tariffs and China, saying he hopes to have talks with President Xi Jinping.
We have the best trade deal of any country in the world. Right now with the United States, we have 85% plus of our trade is free. We have the lowest tariff of any country in the world. That deal can be better. Both the President, President Trump, and I agree on that. We have a number of discussions, our officials have a number of discussions on how that can be potentially structured. A lot of that will roll into this process of the review of what we call CUSMA, which is our agreement, you know this, but for everybody, agreement with the United States and Mexico. That review will start over the course of later this year. I mean, the individual country reviews, but the discussions will start later this year and into next year.
South African President Cyril Ramaphosa said on Tuesday he is in talks with the U.S. trade representative to reduce tariffs levied by U.S. President Donald Trump. Ramaphosa also said the African Growth Opportunity Act treaty should continue.
The tariffs that President Trump is seeking to levy on us and has already started to be reduced, and that AGOA treaty should continue. And we are now involved in negotiations with the United States Trade Representative to see the extent to which we can reduce that.
4 years after the military seized power, voters in a Guinea referendum have resoundingly chosen to implement a new constitution with 89% supporting the charter. The constitution paves the way for elections in the West African country, but also permits General Mamadi Doumbouya to run for the president. According to Condé, total election turnout stood at 86.4%. Final results will be announced by Supreme Court at an unspecified date. The opposition, many of whose leaders are based abroad, had called for a boycott, describing the vote as a power grab with predetermined results. Some 6.7 million Guineans out of a population of approximately 14.5 million people were eligible to cast a ballot. A prison riot caused by gang fighting in southern Ecuador on Monday left 14 people dead and another 14 wounded. Prisoners in the port city of Machala, south of Guayaquil, clashed with authorities, killing a guard and kidnapping officers. Some prisoners escaped and 13 have been recaptured so far. The Ecuadorian police said in a statement that uniformed officers confronted heavily armed inmates who tried to escape and maintain control of the cell block. Authorities said the violence began after a violent confrontation between members of the gangs Los Lobos and Sao Box, which the police referred to as criminal organizations. Panama's metro showcased construction of Line 3 on Tuesday, a project touted as historic as it will cross the Panama Canal. Panama has reached a major milestone in its ambitious Metro Line 3 project, with the construction of the country's first metro tunnel beneath the Panama Canal underway. Line 3 will connect the capital, Panama City, with neighboring Panama Oeste province, in fact, along a 25-kilometer route, reducing commute times and easing chronic traffic congestion. 2 of the 4.5 kilometers of the subaquatic tunnel for the 11th station line have already been excavated. Panama remains the only Central American country with a metro system. According to local media, the Panama Metro was opened in 2014. Jimmy Kimmel was due to return to ABC's late-night television lineup on Tuesday after a nearly week-long suspension over his on-air remarks about late conservative activist Charlie Kirk's accused assassin that drew the ire of the Trump administration. Despite the political firestorm, Disney on Monday announced that it was ready to restore Kimmel to the airwaves. Station owners Nexstar Media and Sinclair have said they will continue to preempt Kimmel's time slot. At the Hollywood studio where Jimmy Kimmel Live airs from, audience members lined up outside the theater were thrilled the show was back. On his first night back, the comedian was expected to address his comments from last week that rankled some viewers, prompted threats of federal regulatory action, and led to a boycott of Jimmy Kimmel Live show by 2 major television station groups. Update on Typhoon Ragasa. Now, fierce winds, pounding rain and high seas battered Hong Kong on Wednesday as Super Typhoon Ragasa headed into southern China after wreaking havoc in Taiwan on Tuesday. Super Typhoon Ragasa, the world's most powerful tropical cyclone this year, lashed Hong Kong with hurricane-force winds and torrential rain on Wednesday. Huge waves crashed over areas of Asian financial hubs, eastern and southern shoreline, submerging some roads alongside residential properties. Hong Kong issued the Typhoon Signal 10, its highest warning, early on Wednesday, which urges businesses and transport services to shut down. Authorities also issued the Amber Rainstorm Signal as heavy rain was expected to continue, with some streets already partially flooded. In Taiwan, at least 14 people were killed when a decade-old lake barrier burst after Super Typhoon Ragasa pounded the island with torrential rain. The barrier lake in eastern Hualien County burst on Tuesday, washing away a bridge and sweeping into a town with a trail of thick sludge and mud. 18 people injured in the tragic incident, while over 120 others are reported missing. Footage released by the fire agency showed flooded streets, half-submerged cars and uprooted trees. Over 7,600 people were evacuated across Taiwan due to Typhoon Ragasa. While Taiwan reels, southern China is bracing for the next phase of the storm. The typhoon is expected to make landfall along Guangdong's coast between Zhuhai and Jiangxing by Wednesday afternoon. The storm is expected to dump widespread heavy rain across Guangdong and neighboring Fujian province. Meanwhile, authorities have already closed schools and businesses, grounded flights in at least 10 cities across the southern region. And let's take a look at other stories making news around the world. As Morocco prepares for the Africa Cup, the capital city will host a spectacular cultural event titled Dance of Africa. The celebration will feature music, dance and performances showcasing the diversity and unity of African nations. The event, held in heart of Rabat, also highlights Morocco's role as a cultural bridge on the continent and brings the festive spirit of the tournament to both locals and visitors. Saudi Arabia celebrated its 95th National Day with a nighttime parade in the capital, where citizens enjoyed a public holiday. Interior Ministry sectors participated, with troops from various branches marching past an open stage lit in green. Special forces and police staged drills, and female service members also joined the march past. The World Health Organization's new global hypertension report reveals 1.4 billion people worldwide live with high blood pressure, but only 1 in 5 manage to control it. Hypertension remains a leading cause of heart attacks, strokes, kidney disease and dementia. Experts warn that without urgent action, millions more lives and billions in economic losses are at risk, especially in low-income countries where vital medicines are still limited. And still to come on DD India News Hour. On the sidelines of the UNGA, EAM Jaishankar holds a high-level meeting with countries of Global South. An Indian Air Force to retire MiG-21 on September 26, honouring 6 decades of distinguished service. Heavy rains paralyze Kolkata ahead of Durga Puja festivities.
Pakistan's Al Khalid tank under fire at home. Can it hold up against India's T-90 Bhishma? Islamabad's stealth fighter dreams dashed. No J-35 in sight. India's big leap in aviation, IMRH and DBMRH, set to rule the skies and the seas. And Israel powers up its Iron Beam lasers to replace missiles in future wars. Catch all the action on Defense Dynamics this Wednesday at 8 p.m. IST only on DD India.
Jharkhand will mesmerize you with majestic nature, rich heritage and colorful culture.
Hello. Johar. Johar. It fits perfectly.
Thank you.
Full workout ho gaya.
Ready?
Postcards from Jharkhand on National Geographic.
You're watching DD India News Hour. I am Siddharth Bharadwaj. India on Tuesday hits out at Pakistan at the United Nations Human Rights Council, lashing out at Islamabad for abusing the forum with baseless and provocative statements against India. Representing India at the 68th session of the Human Rights Council, Kshitij Tyagi, Councillor, Permanent Mission of India in Geneva, said that instead of coveting our territory, they would do well to vacate the Indian territory under their illegal occupation and focus on rescuing an economy on life support, a polity muzzled by military dominance, and human rights record stained by persecution, perhaps once they find time away from exporting terrorism, harboring UN-proscribed terrorists and bombing their own people.
A delegation that epitomizes the antithesis of this approach continues to abuse this forum with baseless and provocative statements against India. Instead of coveting our territory, they would do well to vacate the Indian territory under the illegal occupation and focus on rescuing an economy on life support, a polity muzzled by military dominance, and a human rights record stained by persecution. Perhaps once they find time away from exporting terrorism, harboring UN-proscribed terrorists, and bombing their own people.
Defence Minister of India Rajnath Singh with his Moroccan counterpart Abdelatif Lodii jointly inaugurated a Tata Advanced Systems Limited's defence manufacturing facility in Bereshed, Morocco. The plant will produce the indigenously developed wheeled armoured platform for the Royal Moroccan Army, with deliveries starting next month. Marking the first Indian private defence facility in Africa, the project highlights India's Make for the World vision under Atmanirbhar Bharat. It is expected to boost local employment, defence capabilities and strategic ties between India and Morocco, while serving as a future export hub to Africa and Europe. Addressing at US-India Strategic Partnership Forum, Union Minister Piyush Goyal on Wednesday said India's advancements and initiatives in energy security and healthcare, highlighting the 7-year success of a free healthcare program benefiting 612 million people.
We launched Ayushman Bharat 7 years ago on this day. I think that was a very important program because it brought to the fore a need to ensure quality healthcare for every citizen of India. It was expanded in earlier this year, towards the end of the last year, in 24, it was expanded to cover everybody above the age of 70 years. So now we have about 620 million beneficiaries of free healthcare in India.
Minister of State for Skill Development and Entrepreneurship Jayant Chaudhary visited Massachusetts Institute of Technology, where he met with senior faculty members working on AI and related domains. Jayant Chaudhary also had an engaging interaction with select researchers and entrepreneurs from various fields. The discussions focused on the role of AI in shaping the future workforce and potential areas of academic and technological cooperation. Jayant Chaudhary also met a delegation led by President of Boston University, Melissa Gilliam, in Boston for a wide-ranging discussions on avenues for collaboration between Boston University and India in education, vocational training and skill domains. On the sidelines of the UN General Assembly in New York, External Affairs Minister S. Jaishankar held a great conversation with Foreign Minister Alva Baptiste of St. Lucia. Jaishankar also met Minister of Foreign Affairs and International Cooperation of Somalia, Abdisalam Ali, on the sideline of the meeting. Jaishankar met Foreign Minister of Mauritius, Dhananjay Ritesh Rampal, and discussed following up on the recent successful state visit of PM Naveen Ramgoolam to India. In a post on X, Jaishankar said, "Pleasure to know FM Melvin Bova of Suriname and appreciated his warm words for ties." Jaishankar met FM Lejone Mpochoana of Lesotho on the sidelines of high-level meeting. Jaishankar appreciated the conversation with FM of Denmark, Lars Loke Rasden, and valued his insights on latest developments in Europe and the Ukraine conflict. Both leaders also discussed bilateral ties and India-EU cooperation under the Danish presidency. On the sidelines of the UNGA meeting in the US, External Affairs Minister Dr. S. Jaishankar held a key meeting in New York. Jaishankar hosted a high-level meeting of like-minded Global South countries to discuss a number of important global issues. He made the proposal for Global South to approach the world affairs and said, in light of current challenges, the need for enhanced dialogue among the Global South was emphasized to foster solidarity and encourage mutual cooperation. The discussion recommended utilizing existing platforms, in fact, to strengthen mutual consultation. Presenting India's position, Jaishankar said, given the growing concerns and multiplicity of risks of today, it is natural for the Global South to turn to multilateralism for solutions.
India would propose the following points for your collective consideration. 1. We utilize existing forums to strengthen consultations among Global South with a view to enhance solidarity and encourage collaboration. 2. Bring to the table specific strengths, experiences, and achievements that we may have individually developed, but which can actually benefit fellow Global South members.
Tokyo witnessed a vibrant celebration of Ayurveda Day on Tuesday at the Embassy of India under the theme Ayurveda for People and Planet. The event featured a yoga session and a Kathak dance performance. Minister of State for Ayush and Health and Family Welfare Pratap Rao Jadhav gave a video message at the event. A special congratulatory message from Ms. Aki Abe to Prime Minister Narendra Modi was read out, appreciating India's promotion of Ayurveda and its centuries-old contribution to physical and mental well-being. After 6 decades in the skies, the Indian Air Force is set to retire the last 2 squadrons of its iconic MiG-21 fighter jets, with a ceremonial farewell scheduled for September 26 at Chandigarh. 4 decades. In fact, this aircraft was backbone of India's aerial defense, serving in key conflicts from 1971 to the Balakot operations. An Indian Air Force tribute describes the aircraft as not just a fighter, but a symbol of resilience, highlighting the deep connection between the machine and the personnel who flew and maintained it. The farewell marks an emotional moment as the jet flies into the sunset, but the aircraft will not be sent to the scrapyard. As its engines fall silent, the MiG-21's legacy will be etched forever in the history of Indian Air Force.
MiG-21, the sentinel of our skies. For 60 years, it has guarded the nation, training our warriors, testing their courage, and triumphing in battle. A machine of steel, flown with unmatched spirit. The Chief of the Air Staff, joined by Squadron Leader Priya, honors this legacy with a commemorative sortie. Swift, fearless, enduring. Every mission, every landing. A chapter of courage written into history. A legend bows out, saluted by generations. The MiG-21 departs, but its legacy will always remain.
The Maiden Tri-Services Academia Tech Symposium, also known as TSATS, concluded in New Delhi, setting a roadmap for future-ready defense ecosystem through academia military collaboration. Held at the Manekshaw Center from September 22nd to 23rd, the symposium brought together the armed forces, academia and research institutions to boost indigenous defense research and development. Education Minister Dharmendra Pradhan lauded India's innovation rise and announcing 10 projects for R&D Minister of Defence for State Sanjay Seth highlighted reforms in AI, cyber and space technologies, while Army Chief General Upendra Dwivedi stressed investing in niche technologies, noting 450 proposals received via the TSATS portal. International Maritime Conference, the 12th GAL Dialogue 2025 hosted by Sri Lanka Navy is underway. The theme for the conference is Maritime Outlook of the Indian Ocean under Changing Dynamics. Its conference covers areas such as maritime environment, maritime governance, economy, sustainability and fostering a clean Indian Ocean. This high-level event aims to bring together naval leaders, policymakers and maritime experts from many nations to enhance regional cooperation and maritime security. Speaking at the 12th GAL dialogue at Sri Lanka, the Sri Lankan Prime Minister Dr. Harini Amarasuriya has called for collective action in dealing with traditional and non-traditional threats in the Indian Ocean region.
For centuries, the Indian Ocean has been a nexus of civilizations, enabling trade, cultural exchange, and technological progress. Today, it is a stage where strategic interests converge, making it both a theatre of competition and a platform for cooperation. Climate change, sea level rise, overfishing, and pollution threaten the biodiversity, human security, and economic stability. However, these challenges cannot be addressed by Sri Lanka alone. Ensuring effective maritime security and counter-narcotics operations in the Indian Ocean requires the active support and collaboration of other nations.
Moving on, Busan, South Korea has witnessed a unique and significant initiative at its University of Foreign Studies. The university has established the India Center, a hub dedicated to promoting the culture, civilization and languages of India to the world. Director of India Center, Professor Lee Sun-cheol, explained how the center is deepening the bonds of knowledge, tradition and cultural exchange between India and Korea.
The Embassy of the India Seoul requests us to set up this showcase, and there is another office to make the cooperation. Actually, we are trying to spread the India culture to the Korean peoples, especially southern area of the peninsula. So they designed this showroom to spread the India culture to the citizens, also visitors.
In an exclusive chat with DD India, actor Vikrant Messi, who bagged the Best Actor award for his film 12th Fail at the prestigious 71st National Film Awards, expressed his joy and emotions. He said, it's a dream come true moment for him and he always dreamt of having a national award in his room. Listen in.
I have with me Vikrant Messi, who got the Best Actor award in the National Film Award for his film 12th Fail. Let's talk to him. Hi Vikrant, first of all, congratulations, and what does it feel like?
Thank you so much. I'm really ecstatic. It's a dream come true, and as I said before that when I started off my journey as an actor, I always aspired to be here, to have a national award in my living room, and finally the dream has come to fruition, so I really couldn't ask for anything more.
Let's quickly talk about your film 12th Fail. You know, it has perhaps inspired millions of people out there. You know, the film told them not to cheat and, you know, walk on the right path and do your work, and you will be successful. How do you react to that, and how do you see doing these sort of films in future?
I would love to do these films that not just entertain but also inspire and inform. But with regards to 12th Fail, I think I am still so grateful to each and everyone for making time to watch this film, for recommending this film, for owning this film. और ये मैंने पहले भी कहा है कि ये सिर्फ मनोज कुमार शर्मा की कहानी नहीं है, ये हम सब की कहानी है। ये हर महीने में एक भारतीय कहानी है जो ईमानदारी, सच्चाई, प्रतिष्ठा, इन तमाम चीज़ों के बारे में बात करती है, which are ageless and timeless value systems of our country.
Thank you so much for talking to DD India, Vikrant. That was Vikrant Messi, who got the Best Actor award for his film 12th Fail, and he said he is very happy with the way the Indian cinema is growing. With camera person Yogesh, this is Siddharth Bhardwaj reporting for DD India in New Delhi.
Weather updates from parts of India now. Heavy overnight rains wreaked havoc across the East Indian city of Kolkata, flooding roads and halting traffic. Waterlogging disrupted daily life with 30 flights cancelled at the airport. Schools will remain shut for 2 days. Tragically, 8 people lost their lives in rain-related incidents, including electrocution. The BJP blamed the Mamata Banerjee government for ignoring weather alerts and demanded compensation for victims' families. With Durga Puja around the corner, the city struggles to recover from the downpour. Rescue teams have been deployed in low-lying areas while civic bodies race to clear logged drains. Morning Aarti was performed at the Jhandewala temple on Wednesday, marking the 3rd day of the 9-day-long Shradya Navratri Festival. Navratri Festival is celebrated with great devotion across India, and the Chandewala temple witnessed a significant gathering of devotees offering prayers on the occasion. The festival is dedicated to Goddess Durga and her 9 avatars, each symbolizing distinct qualities such as power, wisdom and compassion. The celebrations are marked by daily prayers, fasting, devotional songs and energetic traditional dance forms such as Garba and Dandiya Ras. On the auspicious third day of Navratri, Prime Minister Narendra Modi extended heartfelt wishes, marking the day dedicated to Goddess Chandraghanta. On social media platform X, Prime Minister Narendra Modi said, as I quote, "The third day of Navratri is dedicated to the worship of Goddess Chandraghanta, the symbol of peace, courage and fearlessness. May the blessings of Devi Ma infuse positivity into everyone's life. May her grace bring happiness, prosperity and good fortune to my family members across the country. This is my prayer." All right, we are heading for a short break. You stay tuned to DD India.
Pakistan's Al Khalid tank under fire at home. Can it hold up against India's T-90 Bhishma? Islamabad's stealth fighter dreams dashed. No J-35 in sight. India's big leap in aviation, IMRH and DBMRH set to rule the skies and the seas. And Israel powers up its Iron Beam lasers to replace missiles in future wars. Catch all the action on Defense Dynamics this Wednesday at 8 p.m. IST only on DD India.
You're watching DD India News Hour. I'm Siddharth Bharadwaj. And in Sri Lanka, the Monetary Policy Board of the Central Bank has decided to keep the overnight policy rate unchanged at 7.75%. The decision taken at its meeting yesterday comes after reviewing domestic and global economic conditions. The board noted that its current policy stance is consistent with its objective of guiding inflation towards the 5% target. The bank said headline inflation measured by the Colombo Consumer Price Index returned to positive territory in August 2025 after 11 months of deflation. Inflation is forecast to rise gradually, reaching the target by mid-2026. Core inflation is also expected to strengthen with domestic demand and later stabilize around the headline target. The central bank added that medium-term inflation expectations remain anchored, reflecting confidence in its policy direction. The US dollar edged up from its lowest level in close to week on Wednesday, with traders expecting 2 more US interest rate cuts this year, even after Federal Reserve Chair Jerome Powell struck a cautious tone on further easing overnight. Australia's dollar firmed after a hotter than expected headline reading of consumer inflation less than a week before the Reserve Bank's next policy decision. New Zealand's dollar was steady following the naming of a new central bank chief. The US dollar index added 0.1% as of 1:50 GMT, while the euro lost 0.1%. Australia's dollar gained 0.2%, reversing an earlier small loss. Traders slightly pared back bets for a rate cut by year-end to about 33%. Markets continue to expect no change to policy on September 30th. You're watching DD India News. Our time now for sport, and India will look to edge closer to the Asia Cup final when they take on Bangladesh in the Super 4 stage today in what promises to be a test of form, conditions and nerve. With conditions in Dubai forecast to produce another low-scoring contest, both sides will need to adapt quickly. While the odds clearly favour India, Bangladesh has the potential to flip the script and breathe fresh life into their Asia Cup campaign. DD India's Mukesh Shukla has more on this, reporting live from Dubai.
A crucial step forward, the Asia Cup final awaits as India face Bangladesh in the Super 4 at the Dubai International Cricket Stadium on Wednesday. Both teams open this stage with wins, Bangladesh adding past Sri Lanka and India cruising past Pakistan. On paper, India hold a strong edge with 16 victories in 17 T20 international clashes against Bangladesh. Yet the memories of Bangladesh occasions, big match upsets keep the contest wide open. For India, Captain Suryakumar Yadav insists performance today matter more than the past records. His sides will to stay sharp and avoid slip-ups. Bangladesh will bank on left-arm pacer Mustafizur Rahman to deliver with the ball to disturb India's formidable batting lineup. The stakes are high and the questions remain. So will India continue its dominance or can Bangladesh script another surprise? With cameraman SP Dubey, Mukesh Shukla, DD India, Dubai.
Sharing a light moment on the streets of New York, French President Emmanuel Macron called his US counterpart Donald Trump after he and his entourage were stopped from crossing a route being kept clear for Trump's motorcade. Both the leaders were in New York to attend the United Nations General Assembly.
Now I have 10 people with me. So I go to the French embassy.
No. You see, I'm sorry, President. I'm really sorry. It's just that everything's in frozen right now. There's a motorcade coming right. That's all.
Oh, sorry. If you don't see it, let me cross. I negotiate with you.
No, it's just not that.
That's the way I can do it. How are you? Guess what? I'm waiting in the street because everything is frozen for you.
What are you solving? Because it's one good thing you thought ago. So
I don't know. I've seen 3 or 4 in the afternoon. But I would love if we can. Yeah, I know. I would follow. But after I would love if we can have a short discussion with Qatar and the situation at Gaza because we were.
Well, we really hope that phone call worked. That's all for this edition of DD India News Hour, but let us know your thoughts on the news of the day. For those on the go, you can get all the latest news and updates from India and across the world on DD India mobile app. The app is available on both Android and iOS platforms, and you can scan the QR code on the screen to download now. We'll be back with more news as it breaks here on DD India. I'm Siddharth Bharadwaj from all of us here in Delhi. Thanks for watching DD India News Hour.